Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're closing off day one on Malaysia, the heart of digital ASEAN for digital investments. This is a session moderated by Mr. Barry Lim, the Senior Director, Public Sector and Government, Frost & Sullivan, Asia Pacific. Over to you, Mr. Barry.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this session this evening. We have the pleasure of having, some distinguished panelists joining us to discuss a topic that perhaps is the overarching kind of theme of this Malaysia Tech Month, in the sense of kind of getting the perspectives of why choosing Malaysia as a regional kind of development hub for companies and tech firms from all over the world, right? So I was given a bit of text to introduce this session. I'll go through that and then perhaps kind of introduce our esteemed panelists one by one before we jump into the questions this evening. But just a quick warm welcome to everyone this evening, and of course, thank you for taking your time out and joining us today. Yeah. So the theme given to us as a panel to kind of have a conversation on this evening is Malaysia, the heart of digital ASEAN. Specifically, we're going to focus on Malaysia as a prime choice for as a regional digital hub for companies looking to tap into ASEAN's digital future, thanks to its thriving ecosystem, holistic talent pool, world-class infrastructure, and forward-looking digital policies. Yeah. So kind of for the panelists, the audience that's expected to dial in this with us this evening is besides the public sector policymakers, we're of course joined by enterprise firms and also potential investors like yourself looking at considering Malaysia as a regional hub for their kind of digital operations, right? So again, good evening, everyone. So I will introduce all three panelists that we have this evening with us. We'll start off with Mr. Karunjit Kumar from SRKay Consulting Group. Now, Mr. Karunjit, you are the Global Chief Executive Officer. The company started up in Mumbai, India, right? And I have slides here, right, to introduce you. So SRKay Consulting Group, again, you started up in India, but now you are present in 3 continents and 7 international markets. Yeah? SRKay, you work with Fortune 500 brands and large enterprises, right? Helping them set up their global offshore captives and use technology to solve real-world problems in building customer-centric IR 4.0 solutions that scale fast. SRKay is your flagship brand, right? It's a digital platform for jobs, work, and business solutions, using technology to help professionals find meaningful work. And enterprises worldwide get access to the right talent and business solutions in a click. Your slide here that you've provided would list down the markets and countries you are operating in, but I suppose your kind of global client would kind of spread further than just the markets or countries listed here. We'll get you to speak a little bit more about this as we start the session. So welcome, Karunjit.
Thank you, Barry.
So our next panelist is Ms. Hellen Tan. You are the Operations Director for Do Group. As a brief introduction of Do Group, you were established in 2014 and currently headquartered in Singapore. After years of development, Do Group has become a large financial services group with financial technology as your core, right? With multiple sub-brands, Do Group provides online platform and numerous financial instruments, such as trading, brokerage services in securities, futures, CFDs, liquidity access, settlement, coupled with your in-house own clearing cloud system, broker force, in-trade and out-trade social trading platform, and many other financial services. Again, I think it would be really beneficial for all of us if you could spend a minute just to introduce and bring us through a little bit more detail on these platforms that you have developed. We take note as well of this large kind of global offices that you guys are currently operating in, and some kind of more exotic locations that I've not even been to, which is certainly on the bucket list to hit to once this whole kind of pandemic is a little bit more settled, I think, right? So again, welcome, Hellen Tan. So finally, we have Mr. Norhizam Kadir, the Director, Government and Regulatory Affairs with Green Packet Berhad. Now, of course, I think for most of us Malaysians here, Green Packet Berhad has been kind of the mainstay of the technology and digital kind of landscape in Malaysia for well, since 2000 here, right? So as a brief introduction, Green Packet is an international technology solutions company. It was founded in the heart of California, Silicon Valley in the year 2000 and subsequently listed on the Malaysian Stock Exchange in 2005. In 2007, Green Packet crossed USD 1 billion in market capitalization. And subsequently, I think there are various kind of milestones that we either read about in the papers and kind of summed up here. So if you could, Hizam, kind of walk us through a little bit on this as we start shortly as well. So again, welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. Yeah.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So very briefly, just kind of on myself, I represent the firm called Frost and Sullivan. We are a research and advisory firm. Yeah. Operating over the past 60 years. In fact, I think just early this year, we had kind of celebrated that 60 years anniversary. We're present in over kind of 26 countries, right? With 40 offices. Some of the countries we operate in has multiple offices, including in Malaysia, where we've been established since the year 1999. With offices both in Kuala Lumpur as well as in Iskandar, Malaysia, right? So I think two main parts of the Frost business. There's the market research side of things, which is indeed how the firm started. And then there's the growth advisory or consultancy work, which is actually the predominant amount of kind of transactions that happens here within Asia Pacific. So I lead the public sector and government practice for Asia Pacific. And we have kind of clienteles within both government, which is the predominant part of our practice clientele, as well as kind of private sector entities looking at more, cross-industry type of studies that they like to do. So again, so this is collectively, I think, the panel that we have this evening. So without further ado, I think we'll get on into perhaps the kind of first question at hand, and it's less of a question and more perhaps if everyone would want to take that 1 minute, being mindful of time, just to kind of introduce yourself in a little bit more detail, and I suppose kind of focus a little bit on your current plans and operations within Malaysia, and perhaps anything forward-looking as far as taking the current operations in Malaysia into the future, if you will. So since I had gone through that sequence just now, Karunjit, if you'd like to spend that 1 minute, please.
Sure, Barry, and thank you so much. So I represent SRKay Consulting Group, which is a global tech company, headquartered in India, and with the significant global clientele, presence across, I think, more than 20 markets worldwide. However, we have physical presence in, about 7 countries. Now, we started off in Malaysia in early, mid 2019, I would say. And since then, we have been able to set up, a local team here, which will have its first focus, being servicing the local customers here in Malaysia. But at the same time, a large part of our overall investment strategy in Malaysia revolves around building Malaysia as a regional hub to support our operations in Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific. So, as we proceed to, probably next year now, we are looking at setting up regional teams here who are going to be, helping us foray into the other markets of interest in Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific. So I think right from your Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, and even Japan and South Korea, in near future. So these are the markets that we are interested in, expanding our base into. And Malaysia, this regional operations center here, it's expected to play a significant role, towards this expansion. So I think that's all I would like to mention for now.
Thank you, Karunjit. I have a question on talent, and so maybe we could kind of pick your brains as far as your experiences dealing with Malaysian talent so far. So crossing over to perhaps Helen then, yeah? If you could also do the same for us, to take that 1 minute to kind of describe, obviously the company, but also your operations currently in Malaysia and moving forward, please.
Hi, I started from the group. The group we started in Hong Kong in 2014. So in 2019, we set foot in Malaysia as to set up our original operation hub to service our group in servicing our customers around the world. So since then, we have expanded to other countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and Singapore. And incoming, we're focusing in MENA countries. So the Malaysia will provide the IT outsourcing services such as the big data analysis, financial technology, the cybersecurity, as well as the technical support that with the talent we have in Malaysia. That's all from you, Barry.
Thank you, Helen. So I suppose finally we have Hizam, kind of representing the vibrant Malaysian digital kind of landscape. Obviously, Green Packet has since gone global, and we'll be focusing a lot on that perspective of having taken that journey, right? And perhaps how we could connect the two in terms of Malaysian firms that have the capability, not only going global and addressing global markets, but also taking that kind of competencies in being able to offer potential foreign firms that like to partner up, right? In not only addressing the Malaysian market, but certainly using this as a base in addressing the regional markets, right? But so not to jump ahead too ahead on that, I suppose if you could give us that 1 minute teaser on the things to come that we'll be hearing from you in this next kind of 45 minutes.
Sure.
Over to you.
I think as mentioned by you, Green Packet we like to refer to it as a Malaysian-based international technology company. We've been around for the last 20 years. It's a classic example of the founder, Mr. Sisi Puan, who started off the company in Silicon Valley and came back. This was 20 years ago when he saw opportunities and growth in Malaysia. We've gone through various iterations actually of the business strategies, and we're currently at the 5.0 stage as part of our Green Packet Transformation 5.0 plan, where many people would probably be familiar with Green Packet being a telecommunications company. You probably would have come across P1Y Max before, right? But we have now expanded our business pillars into various business trusts, and in summary, basically in 3 strategic trusts in digital devices infrastructure, digital services, and investments. And what does that mean? It essentially means that we have now expanded our business pillars into various cloud services, fintech, smart city, constructions and operations of hyperscale data centers, and at the same time as well looking into investing into the future via our venture capital and strategic investment platform.
I'd like to latch on to that a little bit if I could, right? Panama, when it comes to, obviously there's 2 parts to that, right? How Green Packet has kind of looked at opportunities abroad. But if I could kind of just bring your focus a little bit to Malaysia as is the team, right? In business expansion and expanding of that domestic investment within the country, right? What would you say are key considerations in terms of kind of domestic expansion, if you will, for Green Packet? Or would you kind of look at it as perhaps this is more a leading question, and that certainly isn't the intent, but Panama, is it more of like that horizontal kind of expansion, or do you think that there may be saturation in some of the businesses that you have done, and hence that spin-off, etc., and then seeking of new kind of product categories to get into? What would you say is that description of the Malaysian digital and tech market in order to enable further expansion for Green Packet domestically?
I think it goes both ways actually, vertically as well as horizontally. Domestically, yes, as part of our current business strategies in expanding into new ventures into cloud, digital services, fintech, and hyperscale data centers, and many others. we have to look into market opportunities as well. And with technology and with digital being global, being borderless, I think opportunities are plentiful, not just within Malaysia. And my recommendations, and something that CC1 has done in the last 20 years, is to start looking at opportunities even beyond Malaysia. And we are in a state right now, especially with the current situation, where you just can't limit yourself within the domestic market. Having to expand out, especially through collaborations, is extremely crucial. Not only you would be able to fast track the maturity and having technology transfer that would benefit the local talents, but at the same time as well exploring new opportunities, export opportunities, and that would mean great beneficial points for the country as well.
Sure. I think what I was also trying to lead into was to bring in both Karunjit and Hellen into that mix of first addressing what opportunities there are within the Malaysian market. But I think certainly, the ideal scenario is obviously to look beyond the Malaysian borders, using this as a base for the regional markets. And we're going to get into that a little bit, yeah. Now, I'd like to take this early step back in terms of just narrating the overall climate we're operating in today. Yeah? Now, being this part of the world, FDI flows into developing, total FDI, foreign direct investment that has flown into the developing countries in Asia has grown 4% to 535 billion in 2020, right? Reflecting resilience even amidst the global FDI contractions, according to UN's World Investment Report 2021. Now, obviously, those are top-line numbers. And as you know, sometimes top-line numbers can get skewed with huge investments that may not be representative of the overall industry movements on the ground, right? So I think that's where you guys come in to add on that perspective of which, right? So just adding on to that landscape before we get into specifics of your key considerations when venturing into any new markets, or to the extent of setting up operations in a new country, such as Malaysia, and perhaps what kind of considerations you had in choosing Malaysia. So for both Karunjit and Hellen, how would you describe that? Certainly, the background of today's environment would play a role, but beyond that, what would you say has been the key considerations when you looked at venturing outside your home, markets, basically? Anyone want to go first?
So, Hellen, would you like to go first? Ladies first.
Thank you, Karunjit. I think the key considerations for us to venture out to the new market would be most importantly is the political stability, right? And also the economies of skills. So in this prospect, economy of skills in terms of the efficiency of human capital, and also the cutting edge technologies, assistance from the government. So because it's undeniable that the technology is current and the incoming power of the economic development. So these are the two factors we will take into accounts when we are looking for a new market.
Thank you, Hellen.
Right. So, Barry, for us, we typically look at any expansion into a new market from a three-pronged lens. So for us, one clear criteria is the the macroeconomic factors. How is the overall economy progressing or getting affected in any way by especially things like pandemic in today's context. Second is the microeconomic or the local market drivers. So despite of any macro impact which the economy goes through, are there enough local market scenarios or growth drivers which can still help that particular economy or that particular market stay resilient, and hence making it a viable option or interesting enough to invest in that particular market. And third, the third lens or the third way of looking at it is how does that market fit into our overall, future plans? As in now talking of Malaysia, so when we look at investing in Malaysia, it is not just about the local market here in Malaysia. It is also about how can we leverage Malaysia, as a gateway to Southeast Asia or ASEAN on the whole. What are the benefits that we can leverage? So I think in totality, it is these three factors. When it comes to local country, of course, there are interesting things like the stability and security, of that market. There are factors like investor and IP security, in the market. There are also things like livability, index of the market. And then, other two important pillars, which might form a key variable into investment decision is the talent availability and infrastructure in that particular market. So I think overall, this is how we evaluate getting into, any new market as far as SRK Group is concerned.
So that's, I think, kind of very holistic, right, overview, Karunjit. I think before we get to you, Hizam, I wanted to perhaps maybe get a bit of a bite-sized summary of where do you think Malaysia fits within all that, right? Clearly, there's a lot of consistency when it comes to, the feedback that Malaysia's infrastructure is doing really well. There are certain other kind of positives in there as well, right? In terms of, the livability index, that's a very interesting point brought up. Not everybody kind of talks about it, even though it is kind of implicitly known that obviously that's a consideration at a personal level in bringing business executives here, because if you're not based here full time, you're going to be spending a lot of a considerable amount of your business time operating out of Malaysia. So that is certainly one factor. Where would you say in all of the parameters, if you will, that you had just described, where does Malaysia kind of rank vis-a-vis perhaps some of these competing locations that Malaysia has to, compete with?
Right. See, though, it is a little unfair to just rank a particular country, if I may say so. However, let us try to understand what makes Malaysia a winning proposition, especially for a foreign investor like us. So one key benefit that we see is cost and ease of doing business. So if you were to probably let's say compare Malaysia to, as you put, certain competing markets, then I think ease of doing business and cost of doing business, Malaysia certainly ranks, quite high. Then you talk of livability, Malaysia certainly, ranks quite high. We all know that Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur is one of the, most livable cities in this part of the world, on certain factors. Now, other than these 2-3 macro or microeconomic factors, let's see what Malaysia has to offer as a business location or a business destination. So clearly, at least this is what our personal experience tells us so far, Malaysia has something for everyone. So let me elaborate this a little bit. So if, let's say, you are a large global enterprise and you are wanting to service your customers in this region, in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN, and you want to set up a center, then this is perhaps one of the best locations that you can look at. So that's the business case for large enterprises wanting to expand into Asia. Second is, if you are an entity which is interested in setting up a small to mid-size technology offshore captive, let's say about 350 to 700 seater kind of unit, then again Malaysia ranks very high, because of all the factors that we already discussed. Third, you are, let's say, even if you are a private equity player or a venture capitalist or an investor who is interested in exploring the thriving startup scene in Malaysia and Southeast Asia, Malaysia still is one of those places where you can get access to, certain really good budding companies, and also at a valuation that still makes sense. So that's for the VC and investor community. Now, even if you were looking at Malaysia, to set up a large manufacturing hub, again, it makes a classic case for that, because not only do you have the facilities to set up large manufacturing units, you also have a very well-oiled supply chain. You talk of ports, you talk of airports, you talk of all the infrastructure that essentially connects to creating a robust supply chain. Malaysia has got all of that. So I think these are a few practical and business use cases that I can share for these different type of companies or enterprises or investors who may want to evaluate Malaysia as a potential destination.
Thank you, Karunjit. Now, I just want to add on to that another dimension, right? Which is to say, essentially, and this is going to be kind of channeled more to Hizam to walk us through this perspective. So in any typical business expansion and looking for a location to kind of expand into and invest in, etc., one of the first typical things you would do is in identifying a local partner, right? Whether this, now the strategicness of that scope varies, but obviously having a local partner you can trust on the ground to help you navigate everything that you just spoke about, right? Karunjit makes a lot of sense, right? Not only from a business perspective in leveraging networks perhaps, but also kind of that softer side of things, just kind of getting introduced into the market, introduced to, that livability, if you will, as well, right?
Yep.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, now Green Packet, not too kind of long ago, very recently announced a investment of 100 million ringgit to set up a joint internet data center in Malaysia with, in partnership with China's largest internet provider, Tencent Cloud, right? Now, essentially, it's stated here that the investment will be used for setting up of the data center infrastructure, including a total of 600 servers, provision of software solutions, and targeted to be fully operational in the first quarter of 2021. Now, you could take a minute just to kind of elaborate that a little bit, but I think the question here for you, Hizam, is that, focused on that partnership, right, between Green Packet and Tencent, and how perhaps any kind of new foreign investor looking at Malaysia, what would you say they would be able to find in Malaysia as far as domestic partners to kind of connect with, right?
Yeah, I think striking partnerships happens everywhere, and striking partnerships with the right partners could probably be more important than that, actually. And we've been very lucky in having such a great partner in terms of formulating and strategizing and operationalizing our cloud and data center operations. To answer your questions with regards to why would they want to be partnering up and what would be the quality and attributes needed in terms of partnering with someone in Malaysia, if you were to look at it from a more holistic view of Malaysia, and I think rightfully pointed out by both Hellen as well as Karunjit, Malaysia has the right ingredients: robust digital infrastructure, pretty strong connectivity. It's improving connectivity. Strong fiscal policies. I think all of us here have been somewhat or rather being helped by being assisted by MDEC, by MIDA, by InvestKL, in providing fiscal incentives that comes from very strong formulated fiscal policies, very investors friendly, and that in a way helps in terms of creating that ease of doing business, just what Karunjit mentioned earlier. Location-wise, I think we are at the heart of Southeast Asia, and it's the right, I like to use the term transitability, right? For you to be able to move around within Southeast Asia, but not necessarily now, but being able to speak the global business language and understanding the legality within Southeast Asia. What if I can suggest actually a couple of things that the country would probably need in terms of being able to not just attracting foreign direct investments or striking partnerships with local companies or homegrown companies like Green Packet. In order for that FDI continues to flow into the country, I think focusing or emphasizing on the strategies of reinvestments is also equally important. And that reinvestment doesn't necessarily means providing Green Packet or Do or Karunjit more incentives. It's great for us to be getting that incentives, but the ability for the government to look into or to focus on growing skilled talents, and that's important actually. As we're expanding, as we are reinvesting into the country, the need for us to have talents that are evolving. We're not investing into talents now, we're investing into talents of the future. And talents into the future means that these are skills needed for us to sustain ourselves 5 years, 10 years down the road, right? The other one is probably on how government bodies that are responsible for foreign direct investments and reinvestments or domestic direct investments for that matter, will be ensuring that there's agility in regulatory reforms. Of course, without compromising governance and compliance, but looking into how the ease of doing business is one thing, or any form of regulatories, whether it is for specific technologies or specific adoption or implementations of technologies for any targeted audiences in Malaysia, taking into considerations views and inputs coming from the industry, right? So talents is important. Agility in regulatory reforms is even more important as well. And I think Karunjit mentioned about allowing the country, allowing Malaysia to be experimental, to be a test bed of innovation so that it can be exemplified by the neighboring countries as well as other developing markets in Asia.
Thank you, Faizal. So I know that all of you, whether it was part of the introduction or I think, Hellen also said that as one of perhaps the key kind of considerations is that whole topic on talent, right? Certainly, it is a key kind of consideration in considering any location and across perhaps almost any sectors or businesses you're operating in. Now, Hellen, I do want to pick your brains as to perhaps your experiences so far in dealing and sourcing for Malaysian talent, and perhaps, if you will, how does that kind of fit culturally? Because obviously, I think we're all representing kind of regional firms in this context of the panel today, but so presumably they should be a closer fit as far as culture is concerned. But beyond that as well, right? Just that ability to connect with talent in the first place, and perhaps any kind of other experiences you've had so far.
To hire local, and we get some help from AMDAC actually, right? So in terms of hiring, there will be some obstacle at the beginning of the establishments, because if they say we want to get the knowledge transfer, and we need to get someone from the headquarters and also the expatriate to be into Malaysia. So in order for the knowledge to be transferred to the local talents. So because the niche of the industry that we have, the group have, so there are not many talents that we have in Malaysia. That's why we need to have on and off, like traveling from the other regions and importing the talent into local. But because of the advantage of the technology that we're having now, like Zoom or Teams, that we can actually operating borderless, like what Hizam has said. And in terms of cultures fits wise, I don't think there's a problem for us as a Malaysian, because we are multicultural setting. And
you're Malaysian yourself, right, Hellen?
I'm Malaysian, yes. Truly Malaysia. So we are generally literate and multilingual. So we can reach out to the top 3 of the largest populations in the world, like China, Indonesia, and India. So we Malaysian, we are taking advantage, and of course the English we speak widely, and I don't think this is an obstacle for us to get people that we want in Malaysia. And most importantly for the two groups is we hire local, we engage local, because we know that we want to expand out from this region, right? We need to have the local talent. We can't rely heavily on the expat.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I think before, we, as far as that language thing is concerned, just kind of latching on to that, Malaysian talent, by and large, spoke English really well. And in this current kind of, perhaps a little bit of a shifting in dynamics towards markets like China, Malaysian talent is also available in terms of the ability to communicate with the Chinese market, whether as a source market for, materials and technologies coming out, or in kind of, looking at addressing China as a consumer market, right? So the robustness of the Malaysian talent when it comes to certainly communication and language skills, I think is there. So that's great. Karunjit, how has your kind of experience been as far as talent's concerned? You're based here in I think in the early introduction, at least when we were having a conversation prior to the session, you introduced yourself and you have moved to Malaysia, and you would have gone through the experiences of hiring local talent as well. What has your experiences been collectively?
Well, so far it has been quite a good experience. We have been able to hire most of, I think, the talent that we wanted to locally. So in fact, as we speak, I believe more than 90% of our local workforce here in Malaysia consists of local Malaysian talent. So there are hardly any expatriates, except for a few in key leadership roles like myself and a couple more, team members. So I think that way it has been good. However, see, by the virtue of our business, in technology, we work with a lot of companies here as our customers. And when we talk to them, I think one clear indicator that I can sense or our teams can sense is that very soon in near future, unless of course, we are really investing conscious efforts into increasing or improving the supply chain of especially the talent around digital skills or the skills that are required for IR 4.0 or digital Malaysia or whatever we want to call it as. I think that bit is required, because very soon the way things are moving, the demand for such talent and those skills is going very high, and it really needs us for all of us to take some proactive measures, prepare for that surge in the demand, so that we on one side we can service the industry's needs, that needs which needs this talent, and also on the other hand we are improving the employability for the local Malaysian talent, and also helping them with skills of the future, as we may put it. So I think that's where we see where we are as of today.
Thank you. So I think that's a very good point, right? It's not only hiring talent for the perspective from the company, obviously, that's kind of required, but also because the more kind of international firms, whether it is foreign firms investing into Malaysia or Malaysian firms that have expertise and experiences operating abroad, the benefit for Malaysian talent in both interacting and working for these organizations such as you guys would also mean that ability to learn, and perhaps future-proof, right? Their own, what do you call it, abilities well into the future.
Their career.
Correct, exactly, right? So we've got to shift gears a bit, being aware of time. I need to ask this question, right? And I think Hizam already alluded to this a little bit just now, perhaps the support and the services and incentives given by the Malaysian government. Now, just this morning, there was the launch of the Digital Investment Office, or DIO, which is collaboration between MIDA and MDAC, as I understand it. Now, it's deemed to play that facilitation role in a perhaps more robust manner, in facilitating not only companies coming in, but also in looking for local partners, business matching, etc. Activities that has not, it's not that it's not already provided, but in a better holistic way. So I think we'll start off with Karunjit, since you were just speaking also. In your experiences dealing with the Malaysian government in bringing you in and supporting that journey, and then we'll go on to Hellen. Of course, Hizam, you've got a bit of experience personally being on the side of the government, kind of doing this. So maybe you can also take that 2 minutes just to give us your perspective there before we kind of close off with a summarizing statement from all of you. So over to you, Karunjit, and your experiences there.
Well, I think, if I were to describe our personal experience in one word, in dealing with the representatives of different government agencies that we have been talking to, I think that one word for us would be caring. Because the moment we started interacting with these representatives, I think they made, first things first, they made us feel that they care. They care about us, they care about our business, and naturally, they have a lot of caring for Malaysia. So that helped us start it off, at a very positive note, because then you are not only talking strictly business, but you are talking to somebody who genuinely has, some form of care for you and your business, and who wants, good for you. So it started from there, and then what followed was, very good insights about, let's say, do's and don'ts in Malaysia, or how to be a successful, company or investment in Malaysia. Then there was a good follow through with, helping us connect, like Hizam was also talking about partnerships. So, very gladly and a little bit surprising in a positive way as well. Even before we had firmed up our decision of investing in Malaysia, I think we were, introduced to a lot of other potential government agencies as well, besides whom we were talking to in the first place, to explore more about Malaysia. So, when you have this caring and warmth, which is then supplemented with a lot of business insight, and right access to network, your confidence as a foreign investor, shoots up like anything, and, you feel at home. And that is probably what, kind of helped us frame up our mind positively of going ahead and investing in Malaysia. So I think that's been, our journey so far.
Thank you, Karunjit. Hellen, your perspectives.
I will talk about my experience dealing with MDAC. Right, so far. So we just gotten our MSc status this February, and it will a lot of help from MDAC officers, and try to leverage out the activities that we have in Malaysia. How can we reach out to the targeted audience, and how can we gain the incentive from the government to help us enlarge our skills in the marketplace. So I think the officers are always checking in to see if they can offer any assistance and provide guidance whenever we need it. And they have set the right pace, because we are fast moving. We are fast moving in the business and also the expansions, and they are able to catch up that development and changes along the way. Yeah. So I think this is very good for the investor to be in Malaysia.
Thank you, Hellen. So that's, obviously part and parcel of what the industry expects, as far as the pace and the, kind of turnaround that governments of today, not just obviously in Malaysia, in needing to, keep up in that support and that kind of turnaround, right? So finally, I suppose, Hizam, the perspectives from your side, you come with the added benefit of having the spent a previous life on the side of the government. So what would you say is obviously not just your experiences, but what you personally have done in order to meet that pace, as Hellen has said? Yeah.
A bit of a disclosure, I was from MDEC before, right? A bit of a mixed bag, a hybrid person actually, who have been both private as well as public sector. Let me look at it from Green Packet first, based on what I've been told by Sisi Puan, our group MD. Green Packet has been really grateful to be receiving support from various government ministries and agencies. And when this was 20 years back, when he decided to come back to Malaysia, he was doing very well in Silicon Valley, and that was because even back then, actually, Malaysia had that vision with Multimedia Super Corridor, wanting to encourage Malaysians, especially, plus the foreign direct investors, to use Malaysia as the hub to grow. Back then, it was called ICT economy, right? And I would give all credits to the government, to MDEC, because part of that success was due to the commitment of the government in growing digital economy, and having that foresight to be looking at not just only from FDI standpoint, but also looking at it from domestic direct investment standpoint, because it's equally important, right? Both would generate incomes to the government, and at the same time, ability for both foreign companies as well as local companies to be working together. At Green Packet, throughout our 20 years, we have always ensured the country's priorities are considered as part of our business strategies, right? If it's not because of help or assistance from the government, we wouldn't have been able to expand our reach to more than 70 countries right now. You can get Green Packet's products in 70 countries, servicing more than 100 companies worldwide, customers worldwide. So in particular, with regards to the setup of this DIO, the investment, this investment office between MIDA and MDEC, I would like to applaud that, because there will be synergies actually with two bodies that are responsible in attracting investments into the country, all right? And by having that synergy, by having that emphasis, especially on digital economy, not only it will help to realize the aspirations of MyDigital in making Malaysia a regional leader in the digital economy, but at the same time as well, creating job opportunities and making Malaysia to be more inclusive, to be more responsible, and most important of all, to be sustainable socio-economically.
Thank you, Haizam. So basically, I think, we do hope that the new DIO is going to take that to the next level in terms of being able to continue that team and experiences that has Green Packet has experienced in the early days, leading up to where you as an organization are today, right? So we're basically running out of time. I think we started this whole session by having a minute each to introduce yourself and talk a bit about your company and experiences. So I'd like to close this off also by taking a minute each, and we'll start again with Hizam, because you have that added perspective and experiences. What would you say if you are now talking directly to the audiences, right? Specifically those that are looking to invest in Malaysia, in not only addressing the local market, but certainly more so in using Malaysia as a hub towards the Southeast Asian market, right? What would you say is your advice? A cheat sheet, if you will, things to look out for, and what they should do as the first steps in wanting to do that.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Maybe my 1 minute pitch to potential investors coming into Malaysia.
Yeah.
Malaysia has the right ingredients, I must say. Good, robust digital infrastructure, strong connectivity, which are crucial for any digital players. What's more important would be support and strong fiscal policies from the government, right? Very investors friendly. And more so, if you were to look at, especially, I guess it's also the after effect of COVID-19, that there's this increase of tech adoption, not only among government as well as enterprises, but also at the bottom of the pyramids among the rakyats as well as the micro SMEs, right? So that's great. Actually, that's signaling a great potential growth of Malaysia being a hub. As per what I've said earlier, continue to focus on growing skilled talents, ensuring there's agility in regulatory, as well as Malaysia, right? If anyone were to come into Malaysia, actually, and we have experienced it ourselves, and a lot of companies that I spoke with the last time around saw that opportunity and being able to use Malaysia as a test bed. And Hellen mentioned about us being a multilingual country and being able to understand cultures of a lot of countries in Asia. You know, if somebody were to be doing addressing problems like traffic, for example, Malaysia has an equal amount of traffic as well, and that can easily be replicated in traffic congested area in China as well as India, right? So use Malaysia as an experimental ground and set up your headquarters here for your Asia Pacific hub, and test bedding as much as possible, so that you'll be able to replicate and use it for your expansion plan across the region.
Nice, thank you. So Hellen, over to you. Same question.
Yeah, on top of what Norhizam had mentioned about the benefit to be in the invest in Malaysia, and I think the other part will be economy of skills again, that what we have in Malaysia. So in terms of, you can see the tariff of the labor cost in Malaysia is relatively low compared to others regions, the neighboring regions in Southeast Asia. And also, I will encourage the investor to engage local. This is what always, my boss always inspire me, that the business model that he has. So, because the security and the stability of the employability for locals is very important for us to help and to have the full heart in terms of the helping the business expansion, and also to reach out to MDEC, to government agency when you're coming in, if you are setting up as a DIO, to say, because there are a lot of the assistance and the grants and incentives that are in place, and the officers are there to help, to assist us in any way they want, in terms of the infrastructures, in terms of the setting up, in terms of the talent market, and most importantly, we can have the 100% foreign owned to set up the company in Malaysia. Yeah, I think this is the beauty of what they have.
Sure. So I think that flexibility has been kind of liberalized in terms of a lot of those factors in the recent years, which certainly is attractive for foreign-based organizations. So finally, Karunjit, I didn't want to make it too easy for you, so I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball here. If you were to, again, do this all over again, I'm sure, things are certainly never, all rosy and nice. If you were to do this investing into Malaysia all over again, what are perhaps some of that, learning experiences that you would have done better? And in a way, this is still answering that same question, right? What would people be looking at in terms of investing in Malaysia? But what has your experiences been vis-a-vis, all of this? And what would you have done a little bit better in redoing it all over again?
Right, sure. Thank you for making it tougher for me, Barry. Well, okay. See, thankfully, our experience so far has been fantastic, and therefore, even if we were to do it all over again, I think one thing that we could have potentially done better is to liaise more, explore more with the government agencies, because see, it is a process of discovery, right? When you are evaluating a market for potential investment, and most of the times there are so many good benefits. There is a lot of information that is available. Now, you may not necessarily have access to it, or you may not even know as a foreigner where to look for it. So I think that is a bit that we could have perhaps done a little better. But I think, with this digital investment office coming into play right now, perhaps that is one problem, which it is going to solve for all the potential foreign investors, in a big way. I assume that it's going to be creating access for investors like us to all the important and necessary information, any benefits, any government support, etc. Right agencies to reach out to. Everything is going to be made accessible from or with the help of this digital investment office. So that makes it very very accessible and friendly. Another thing that I would like to share as an idea with any foreign investor wanting to invest in or through Malaysia. See, when we look at Malaysia, most of the foreign companies, they should not only look at Malaysia, only as one 32, 33 million population, market. Rather, the better way of looking at Malaysia is to look at Malaysia as a gateway to Southeast Asia and ASEAN, which immediately gets you access to about 650 million population. So that's perhaps a better way of looking at and strategizing your investment. And if you are looking at a regional play, then it makes it even sweeter, it makes it even better with all the returns on investment that you get from investing in Malaysia. So I think that's what I would like to part with.
Certainly. So I thank all of you for kind of being with us this evening. Hizam, Hellen, Karunjit, I think the insights shared by all of you certainly reflected from personal experiences, not only in choosing Malaysia as a destination to kind of be in, and in the case of Karunjit, you're that personal vested investment for being here and locating within Malaysia, certainly even made more so because of the current pandemic we're in, where international borders have practically shut off. That impact on the family lives and being able to be connected to the wider network of family has made it tough. But I think it just emphasizes that we're certainly in the right industry, right? Digital and technology is not only here to stay, but certainly it will be even more important as we navigate our way through this current pandemic. And every industry just needs to make more investments into it. And I think that would open doors for a lot of you guys operating within the sector. So again, I thank you everyone for your time spent. I'm looking at the organizers and I'm hoping that we've managed to kind of keep on time, so to speak. So to the audience, I hope this has been useful for all of you, and I wish everybody, obviously to stay safe, protect the family, and good evening to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
That was certainly insightful. Thank you, Mr. Barry, and to the esteemed panel for that wonderful exchange. And with that final session, we have concluded day one of Digital Investment Week of MTM 2021. Once again, let us all thank our esteemed speakers for high-powering our morning with their outlooks, ideas, and insights on pragmatizing the digital economy amid today's unprecedented uncertainties. We'd like to invite our participants to join us as we resume our agenda tomorrow at 9 a.m. Right? Meanwhile, do check out our agenda for satellite events happening all around the MTM 2021 space. We also invite participants to make use of the virtual networking lounges that are available as well. You're welcome to reach out to the event admin via the chat box for any form of assistance that you may require. With that, we end the inaugural session with a high note and immeasurable thanks. Stay tuned.